So last week, the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, announced that Utah would be their preferred host city for the 2034 Winter Olympics. Joining us now is an Olympic medalist from the 2002 Games, Derek Parra. Welcome, Derek, to the Outside Show.
Thanks for having me, Noah.
So can you give us a little bit of a rundown on your role with bringing the Winter Olympics back to Utah in 2034?
Well, actually, I'm one of the athlete ambassadors. There's a few of us here from the Games in '02 and since then as well, some past Olympians. And we're really on their strategic board. All we're here for really to do is kind of give our advice or input on how it would be to have a games or what the athletes are looking for. In 2002, we had a very athlete-centric games where all of our venues were within 45 minutes. That was a great experience for the athletes. Other Olympic Games I've been to, like in Japan or even in Korea, you're traveling hours if you're an athlete. So it's just not a great experience. You spend more time in a bus than you do competing, getting to those venues. So they're really looking for our input on what it would be like to have a very successful games from the athlete's mind.
So moving into what they call the preferred host city, talk to us a little bit about what preferred means.
Well, now we're in direct dialogue, which really means that we are the city of choice by the IOC. Fortunately, there's no one else running against us, which makes it really great. I'd love to have race with no competition before in my career, but through the last few years, maybe last 13 years when this kind of all started, we've been kind of pushing ourselves to the forefront of this Olympic bid. We host annually. We host World Championships, World Cups. Of junior biathlon, speed skating, you name it, bobsled, luge. So we've been very relevant in the eyes of the Olympic Committee and the IOC and the International Olympic Committee. But we're waiting kind of for our turn to host the games again. And now being a preferred city means that we are the ones to watch. We have everything kind of lined up. Our government contracts are set. We have 86% approval rate by the communities around us. We're ready. We've got our buildings are built. They're set here. We don't have a lot to do except for just make our last minute preparations to host the games.
And this sounds like it's personal to you because you directly participated in the last Winter Olympics when they were in Utah. Talk to us a little bit about why this is important to you.
You know, the games for me, even the thought of the games, the movement of the games was really powerful for me growing up as a kid. I feel like I didn't really belong in places, but when I found my sport of roller inline speed skating or roller skating, that kind of got me out of my neighborhood and set me on a path for a number of years, for 18 years, where I had to finally switch sports to get to the Olympics and go to ice skating. Well, that thought of the Olympic Games, especially here in our home country, was just a springboard for my dreams. I mean, it allowed me to hope, dream like I never knew before. Knowing it be here, there's the reason I like the Olympic movement is the community feeling that I have with it. When you're at a games, it's the only time I joke around and say that the New York Mets fan and New York Yankees fan will cheer for the same team. Or here in Utah, a BYU fan and a Utah Utes fan will cheer for the same team. It's just a very community based games or movement. I'm really focused on the kids that are here in our buildings now that have been here through the last few years. In 10 or 11 years, those kids that are 10, 12 years old will be at their peak. And I know what it was like to when I was growing up that the games would be here in Utah and what kind of dreams that sparked. So knowing the kids we have here, where they're at, the projection they're on, whether in any sport that we have in our venues, I'm excited for what they're thinking now. And I'm anxious to hear their stories over the next 10 years of how they got to the games and how it affected them and how it changed our community, their families, their friends. It's a powerful movement that I've always been very fond of and very proud to be a part of.
Absolutely. Thank you for explaining that. Moving into the pros and cons of having the Winter Games in Utah again, can you give us some insight onto the pros and cons of that? The economic impact versus the cost of having the games there?
Well, in 2002 or pre-2002, we had to build the venues, and that was somewhat of an expense. I know that Mitt Romney back in the day came kind of saved the games. They were bankrupt a bit, trying to find money to build the venues. He did a great job of leverage some of the people here in Utah getting some money to build the facilities. And then after the games was over, we had the most successful Winter Games in history. And a lot of that, I think it was over $100 million of surplus or profit that went back to those donors. And we created an endowment that our foundation runs off of now that actually operates our Olympic venues. So
Wow.
because of that endowment, we've been able to keep our bobsled tracks and our speed skating ovals up to date. Again, we still have the fastest ice in the earth. Fastest ice on earth. We're setting world records on our ice. We're having World Cups and World Championships at our other venues. We have the greatest snow on earth. So that vision back then to help us maintain our facilities has made it so much easier to host the games. There was very minimal expense involved. Right now, it's just getting up to date with the new standards of 2020 standards instead of the 2000 standards. That's really the biggest thing as far as the impact of it. We're ahead of the game, but before the games in 2002, no one really knew about Salt Lake, right? It was a hidden gem. No one knew about how great the summers are here. They knew about the snow, but now since the games, we were on the map. This city has exploded over the last 20 years. Where this facility is right now, behind me 20 years ago, there was nothing. Now there's neighborhood upon neighborhood upon neighborhood to the other mountains on the west side of our valley. So it's really been great economic impact. But as I mentioned before we started recording, there's a lot of traffic now these days. I grew up in Southern California, and it's kind of reminding me of California now. There are some times of the day you don't want to get on the highway. But for the most part, the city remain the same. The people are fantastic, very giving. It's very faith-based, very safe. People love to be outside here. If you're active outside, this is a place you want to live. You can mountain bike, hike, snowshoe, ski, cross country ski, skate, play hockey. I mean, the sports are unlimited. The activities are limited. Curl now, curl has become a big sport here in our building. But the biggest impact, I think, is just the amount of people who are coming to Utah now. But I think we've done a great job of being able to kind of spread out. It's up to our government officials to kind of figure out where that's happening going in the future. But as far as the games goes, we're ready to go.
Wow. Well, it sounds like maybe this is just a formality at this point. And Derek, I appreciate your time. Thank you for enlightening us about the 2034 Winter Olympic Games. I appreciate you coming on the Outside Show.
Thanks for having me. If you have a chance, come out in 2034 and watch some incredible stories of some incredible athletes right here in Salt Lake City.
We'll do that. Thanks again.